Headlines on RT International. Vladimir Putin and the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump hold their first telephone conversation within which they agree to improve bilateral ties and discuss the Syrian crisis. A high-ranking arrest here in Russia. The Minister of Economic Development detained on accusations of bribery and extortion amid the country's ongoing fight against corruption. German police are carrying out raids across the country in a hunt for Islamic State sympathizers. We'll go live to Peter Oliver in Berlin. And international criminal court prosecutors say there's a reasonable basis to believe that U.S. forces committed war crimes during the intervention in Afghanistan. Your midday worldwide news headlines live from Moscow. Thanks for joining us. It's RT International. Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump vow to improve relations between Russia and America as they hold their first phone call since Trump won the presidential election. RT's Guy Chichikan has some of the details of that phone conversation.
I would love to be a fly on the wall during that conversation. What we have is a readout of the phone call from the Russian president's press office. And the readout says Vladimir Putin once again congratulated Donald Trump with his victory in the presidential election, expressed Russia's willingness to be a partner to the United States based on mutual respect and quote-unquote non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Both agreed that these are difficult times for U.S.-Russia relations, and both expressed willingness to work toward normalizing the relations. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin also agreed on the importance of joining forces to fight terrorism, which could lead to the U.S. and Russia forming a united front in Syria. Throughout the presidential race, the Washington establishment and much of the media blasted Donald Trump for saying that he would get along with the Russian president.
He has made common cause with dictators. He has basically endorsed Vladimir Putin. He praised Russia's strongman, Vladimir Putin. Donald's very praiseworthy of Vladimir Putin.
Hillary Clinton says, how dare he like Putin? How dare he? What are we doing, folks? What are we doing? And they say such bad things about Putin, and then they're supposed to negotiate with Putin? Why would he do this? If we got along with Russia, and Russia went out with us and knocked the hell out of ISIS, that's okay with me, folks.
Almost nobody expected Donald Trump to win the election, and everybody was bracing for a continuation or even worsening of very frosty relations between the U.S. and Russia under Hillary Clinton. With Donald Trump in office, it seems there is hope, specifically when it comes to U.S.-Russia relations. Although it is too early to tell, Donald Trump hasn't been sworn into office yet. We've yet to see whether the sanctions the U.S. imposed on Russia related to Ukraine will stay in place. Mr. Trump hasn't really weighed in on that yet. These past few years have done a lot of damage to U.S.-Russia relations, with both governments blaming each other for that.
RT's Guy Chichikan. We spoke with journalist and foreign policy strategist Michael Hughes, who thinks it won't be easy for Trump to improve relations, as he'll be facing a hostile Congress.
As much as Hillary Clinton was horrible for Russian relations, Barack Obama was not very good for Russian relations, but that doesn't mean the Republicans are any good, en masse are any good for Russian relations. I think Donald Trump is this unique figure that defies both parties. So yeah, the GOP in Congress, I mean, let's face it, you haven't heard, you know, Russian-friendly rhetoric out of them. If he takes an approach of removing sanctions from Russia or working with Russia very closely on helping Assad, for example, Republicans in the House and Senate, they could go on a smear campaign, and right, they can sway public support.
In the United States, Trump's victory has been met by mass demonstrations in the streets, with some branding him intolerant and warning he's a threat to constitutional freedoms. However, there's growing concern over the manner of their protests.
So here's your ideal democratic U.S. voter, ready and willing to stand up for the minority, for the equality, for basic human rights and values, among them to respect and tolerate other people's opinions which may differ from your own, like choosing Donald over Hillary, or maybe not in this case.
You voted Trump! You voted Trump! Oh, yeah! Yeah, he voted Trump! Don't vote Trump! Don't vote Trump! Don't vote Trump!
And it doesn't just end there. You can get beaten up or your property can be damaged for wearing a Trump cap, posting a Trump tweet, or holding up a Trump poster. You guessed it, having an opinion these days can be bad for your health.
It went around yesterday, someone was in a protest holding up a sign saying that Donald Trump's wife should be raped. These are the people that are saying that Trump is a misogynist, that he hates women, and holding up such a hateful sign, I think it really is an indication.
Another value in the book, the freedom of choice and the right to vote. So guys, what do you think about Trump fans?
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Uneducated.
Misguided.
Chaos.
To have democracy, you have to have an educated public.
In other words, if you don't think the way a liberal progressive Democrat does, you are a deplorable freak with no right to choose because apparently you're not educated enough.
These globalists actually don't believe that ordinary people have the same rights as them. They don't actually see them as people. They see them as sheep to be led by their wonderful globalist agenda. And frankly, they're now on the wrong side of history. And we're seeing it not just in the US and in the UK, we're seeing it all over Europe. And frankly, these people need to get with the project.
And last but not least, you respect the United States electoral system, which has been functioning perfectly for the last 229 years, at least according to your democratic role models.
We have free and fair elections and a peaceful transfer of power. That is one of the great hallmarks of American democracy.
Our democracy depends on people knowing that their vote matters.
Free elections are the best way on earth to choose our leaders.
But when push comes to shove, or in other words, when the outcome of this machine is undesired by the status quo, all these democratic values become irrelevant.
We need to fight back against this fascist system.
Impeachment. We need to stay single for a while as a country. We don't need a president.
Not my president! Not my president! Not my president!
Ironically, the media also played a number of memes prior to the election that Trump may not accept the results of the vote and trigger another constitutional crisis. Well, now we're seeing who is protesting. People are saying silly things about, well, she won the popular vote, when they understand or should understand that America's complex and perhaps flawed electoral system chooses the president. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
The U.S. has nourished and exported democracy for so long that it's become a household brand. But now it seems this product no longer does what it says on the label, with even your average democratic progressive liberal apparently ready to abandon principles and values that he supposedly stood up for throughout this election. I'm Miguel Francis Santiago.
Trump's rival Hillary Clinton was among the many blindsided by his victory. Backed by almost the entire mainstream media, Hillary Clinton appeared to think she had the presidency in her pocket. Ilya Petrenko and RT America host Ed Schultz now assessing how the establishment's golden girl fell at the finish line.
In the world of Hillary Clinton, it was decided long before November 8th who's going to get the White House after Barack Obama. And I tell you what, her world is huge. Did you see many or any pre-election polls that favored Donald Trump? Month after month, essentially all the media said was Hillary's winning. And even the day before the vote, the editors of Newsweek were still inhabiting Planet Clinton with this Madam President cover, which they had to recall when reality struck. Some 125,000 copies, no less. The creators of South Park were also living in Clinton land. Their pre-recorded post-election episode also had her win it. They had to rush and change it to this.
The world is in a bit of a shock. We're sure this is for real, right?
What have you done?
And then at the center of the Clinton-verse was Hillary herself, who never, even for a moment, stopped to consider the possibility that non-Clinton worlds existed. They had everything ready for a huge party, including loaded fireworks machines. Last week, to the surprise of many, many people, we learned that Planet Clinton was just a myth. Let's ask RT America's Ed Schultz, who knows Hillary personally, if he thinks that Mrs. Clinton still believes it herself. Ed, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Who was it that created the world of Clinton? Was it her campaign chiefs? Was it maybe Bill or anyone else?
Well, I think that there was a lot of people that contributed to that. The world of Hillary is one of power and influence, and the world of Hillary is global. And there's a lot of factors that play into her success over the years, and it is amazing that she's not president of the United States with all the resources globally that they were able to put together. I find it's a bigger story that she's not president than it is Donald Trump being president, considering the world of Hillary.
Well, how did Clinton and co. have everyone so convinced? If you look at the entire media spectrum, I mean, it was obvious. You turn on the TV in America, you go online.
And the mainstream media in this country does not cover issues that rural America is concerned about. If you look at the map of the United States, you will see the metropolitan and the urban areas going to Hillary Clinton. You will see rural America going to Donald Trump. And the mainstream media is horribly disconnected. And for that matter, so is Hillary Clinton. She never went to Wisconsin. She didn't go to Michigan until late, and that was supposed to be her firewall. I mean, they were just a total miscalculation on how the media got it. I think that this is one for the archives, and it's one that may be duplicated in the future. There's no question that the mainstream media has got major egg on their face.
Well, I'd just like to play a very short clip from one of her campaign speeches. Please take a listen.
To just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
So everyone laughed at it in that room, but can you really laugh at statements like this? Maybe this kind of thing is to blame for it.
Well, that was a classic from the standpoint that she was talking to people in New York City. She was talking to high donor limousine liberals, is what we call them, that have no connection with rural America. What Hillary Clinton did was just offend a majority of people in this country who voted for Donald Trump. That was a total turnoff. And you can't make a comment like that and then turn around and say that you want to be president of deplorables. It's an interesting soundbite that you played. It was a turning point in the campaign. She's blaming the FBI director, Comey. I think that comment that you just played as much into her defeat as anything she did on the campaign trail. But notice how she has not blamed the Russians. She hasn't blamed the Russians because they never had 100% proof that the hacking was taking place or that her campaign was being targeted. She'll blame Comey, but she hasn't gone so far as to blame the Russians, which I think is very, very funny, because at the end of the day, there's two things people didn't care about in America. They didn't give a damn about Donald Trump's taxes, and they didn't care about what the Russians were thinking about this election. That's what Trump's win boils down to.
Russia's Minister of Economic Development has been arrested on corruption claims. RT's Nikki Aaron has details.
The country's economy minister, Alexei Ulyukayev, could be facing up to 15 years behind bars. This comes after a criminal case has been opened against him. This was prompted by evidence found after police wiretapped his phone. The investigative committee carried out an experiment which caught him red-handed, accepting a $2 million bribe in return for the ministry's positive assessment that gave the go-ahead for oil giant Rosneft to acquire a 50% stake in another oil company, Bashneft. Now, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has responded to the arrest. He's called the accusations very serious, which requires serious proof, ultimately leaving the case in the hands of the courts. Now, it is believed that this could mark a part of a wider crackdown on corruption in Russia. this case involving the economy minister is very high profile. He's the highest ranking official to be detained over corruption since the early 90s. And if this is sparking a wider crackdown on corruption, this case could set a precedent for future cases.
Right, RT's Peter Oliver is standing by for us in Berlin right now as a massive operation against ISIL sympathizers is now underway all across Germany. We'll get the live report in just a moment.
This is Boombas, and these are the stories we are tracking for you today.
I think that the euro is severely undervalued.
That's the highest output in over 3 years.
What the Fed really wants is inflation.
The U.S. has more than doubled imports from Iraq.
All that debt that was accumulated, they have to pay it off.
And when you see oil go down, our economy goes down.
What do you make of that data, and what does it really mean for the average worker?
Here's what people have been saying about Redacted tonight.
Give it to us.
Redacted is full-on awesome.
So
the only show I go out of my way to watch every week. It really packs a punch. Lee Camp is the John Oliver of RT America.
You guys do have the same accent.
Hey, we are apparently better than boobs.
Nothing's better than boobs.
You see, people you've never heard of love Redacted tonight. The president of the World Bank, though, hates it.
Yeah, well, he doesn't really have any taste.
Seriously, he sent us an email.
Thanks for joining us. German police are carrying out a special operation against a radical Salafist group of alleged Islamic State sympathizers. Raids are being conducted in 10 states across Germany. Let's get the latest details now across live to our Europe correspondent, Peter Oliver. Now, Peter, bring us up to speed. The latest details that you know, please.
Right, well, around 200 homes and premises have been raided, starting this morning around 6:30 local time. Those raids took place in the west of Germany as well as here in Berlin, where I'm talking to you from. Now, they were targeting the Salafist group, a well-known Salafist group called True Religion here in Germany. Among those homes targeted was that of their leader, Ibrahim Abu Najir. Now, his home in Bonn was raided. However, we understand he wasn't there. We're hearing in German media that he may well be in Malaysia, where he's accused of working to promote Islamic State. Now, his organization, True Religion, has now been banned here in Germany. Just as the raid started, a tweet was sent out by the Interior Ministry confirming that from here on, that particular group would be on the banned list. But the leader of that group, as I say, 52-year-old Ibrahim Abu Najir, who has been referred to as Germany's chief hate preacher in the past. He wasn't at home and wasn't picked up during that raid that took place. But these raids are becoming somewhat commonplace here in Germany. Just last week, we saw another major round of them take place in which Abu Wallah was picked up. Now, he was regarded as the ISIS leader here in Germany, also known as the preacher without a face. He's also he was also claimed to be the top recruiter for Islamic State. When it comes to recruiting, though, it's worth pointing out that that group that's been banned today, True Religion, has been charged with radicalizing and converting 140 people, sending them off to Syria in order to fight. But these raids all came just a few days after a warning from the Belgian Interior Minister. He had this to say.
Islamic State is under pressure in Mosul and Raqqa. We must be aware that there are not only 200 of our countrymen there, but between 3,000 and 5,000 Europeans. All the intelligence agencies are trying to monitor the situation and exchange information. If the wave comes, we must be ready.
Well, what was also included in that warning as German police raid almost 200 homes here was that as those operations in Iraq and in Syria continue, there may be more jihadists, more European jihadists returning home to perhaps try and carry out operations here. So perhaps more of these police operations could be on the horizon.
All right, RT's Peter Oliver in Berlin. Thank you. In the meantime, Russia's Federal Security Service says it has arrested 5 members of a group affiliated to Islamic State. And the men are suspected of plotting terror attacks in Moscow as well as Russia's Republic of Ingushetia. 2 homemade explosive devices along with electronic detonators and 5 firearms were also seized from the terrorists. Prosecutors from the International Criminal Court say U.S. armed forces may have committed war crimes in Afghanistan, and most of the abuses allegedly taking place from 2003 to 2004.
The information available provides a reasonable basis to believe that, in the course of interrogating these detainees, and in conduct supporting those interrogations, members of the U.S. Armed Forces and the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency resorted to techniques amounting to the commission of the war crimes of torture, cruel treatment, outrages upon personal dignity, and rape. At least 61 detained persons to torture, cruel treatment, 27 detained persons to torture, cruel treatment, occurred in 2003 to 2004. Part of approved interrogation techniques aimed at eliciting information.
This preliminary examination report is the result of several years of work. In fact, it's been lasting for years that the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has been determining whether a full-fledged investigation into potential war crimes committed by the U.S. military personnel and the CIA in Afghanistan would be taking place. Now, it says that members of the U.S. Armed Forces appear to have subjected at least 61 detained persons to torture, cruel treatment, outrages upon personal dignity on the territory of Afghanistan between May 1st, 2003 and December 31st, 2014. Members of the CIA appear to have subjected at least 27 detained persons to torture, cruel treatment, outrages upon personal dignity, and/or rape on the territory of Afghanistan and other states parties to the statute, namely Poland, Romania, and Lithuania, meaning the CIA black sites in those countries between December 2002 and March 2008. Now, the report also states that these alleged crimes were not abuses of a few isolated individuals. It basically says that this appeared to have been committed as part of approved interrogation techniques. The report stresses that the U.S. officials reportedly have withdrew such tactics from the usual conduct in those territories, but nonetheless, not a single U.S. military serviceman or a CIA operative have ever been prosecuted for these actions. Indeed, they have been both investigated domestically, but if this investigation goes ahead, it will be the first time ever that an international criminal court is investigating the United States for potential war crimes in Afghanistan.
The U.S. Department of Defense has yet to comment on the issue as officials wait for more details to emerge. However, it could be hard to hold the White House to account, as Washington remains firmly opposed to the International Criminal Court having any jurisdiction over its policies. All right, up next here on RT International, we meet a man with no conventional or even professional training who's dedicated his life to building his own cathedral. Thanks for watching.